Hello and welcome back to my shop. Recently I made this little fixed blade pocket knife. Today let's make a sheath for it. I'm going to be using this veg tan leather. Just looking for a piece that is about the right size. Let's go ahead and cut this out here. I tried to take this out of a good section of the leather, and this welt will be taken out of a part that I don't care about as much on this leather because it's just going to be hidden and it doesn't matter if it looks really nice. I use pencil to trace out this part, but I'm using Sharpie to trace out this part because it doesn't matter. It's going to be glued in the middle of the stack of leather on the edge of the sheath, and you'll never see it. So here's the plan. It's going to be a super simple fold over style sheath. It's going to have a welt so that when you put the knife in, it's resting on that piece of leather and it won't cut through the threads. Fold it over, sew along here, and then with this piece folded over, I'm going to rivet this clip right here, and when that's riveted on there, that's going to clip into your pocket. I just take a jar of water and dip my finger in it, and then I'm just wetting that portion of the sheath where I want it to fold over. I'm getting both sides of the leather wet here to make sure that that water really penetrates and makes this part of the leather more pliable and flexible so that I can fold the sheath over without getting any cracking or have any other type of issues with that. Now I'm just slowly working this leather and folding it over. Now I'm just going to weigh it down with something heavy, and I have this piece of steel. And I'm just going to let that sit for a few minutes, and then I'll come back and check on it. So after you do your folding, you may need to make some adjustments to your welt. That's interfering with the fold right there. Just trim a little bit off and then check for fit again. I just trim a little bit at a time. That way I never take too much off. You can always cut more, but you can't add it back. That's right about where I want to be. Before you glue your welt in, take some sandpaper and rough up the surface of the leather. Try not to get any glue on the outside of your sheath, because that will interfere with any stain or finish you put on there. If you do get some on there, make sure to just clean it off right away. Once it dries, it's really hard to get off. I need to keep in mind this clip. So when I'm laying out my stitching, I need to make sure that I don't put any stitching where I'm going to have to drill a hole for the rivet. Just make a mark there. I just took it over to the belt sander and cleaned up the profile, evened everything out. And now I'm going to mark where I'm going to do the stitching. I'm just going to use a fork to determine the spacing of my stitches, and they have better tools for this, specifically designed for leatherworking. And I have one somewhere, but I just don't feel like finding it. I don't want to confuse this rivet, this location for the rivet, with any of the other holes. So I'm going to mark that differently. And with my pencil, I will differentiate that, so I know not to continue drilling any holes right there. get a good leather stitching thread. Measure out the length of your sheath, and then I like to go like 3 or 4 times that length. You're basically just going to put a needle through one side, and then on the other side put the needle back through that same hole. Take your thread and pull it tight. That's your first stitch. Then take that needle, insert it back into that hole, the next hole. Then the needle from the other side, back into the same hole, and pull it tight. Now that I've reached where the rivet is going, I'm going to double back down over a couple of these just to make sure that my thread is not going to come out. Pull both needles through to the same side wherever you want to stop your stitching, and then tie them off. Trim it fairly close, but leave a little bit of a tag end that you can melt back into itself, and that way that knot won't come apart. You can buy these tools, and I forget what they're called, but I just made this one out of rebar, and it's just basically the tool you need to push this washer down onto this rivet post. Because the washers are smaller than the post of the rivet, then that creates a really tight fit so that when you push it down it doesn't come off, and then you can pin over the post of the rivet, and it has a really secure hold when you do that. There's that tool. That's about how much you want. Take a small ball peen hammer. Use the ball end to peen over the excess material. And that's the sheath done.